Well, Colin, good morning. Since I can't see you,
I
um,
know.
I think I'll just do my favorite thing and start to speak.
Well, you tell me what you want to speak about, Richard.
Good morning. Oh, do I have to do all your work?
No, 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 no. But you generally like to drive the topic. So what do you got?
Well, uh, not a lot, except you have this upcoming draft,
Right?
and there's interesting perspective on that. So it's always fun. This starts football season, so it's kind of fun. Um, is there anything that has come down the road from your end?
No, not really. The draft is one of those things. Um, I'm into it, but I also, as it's gone on, and years and years and years have gone on, I don't want to say less stock in it. I have I have a tempered reaction more and more each year where I don't get up or down as much as I used to. Like, I don't think it's impossible to say somebody's going to be great. It's impossible to say somebody's going to be a bust. And I think too many people get caught up in that day of.
Well, and not even looking at individual. I think we start talking about what our needs are, and to me, it starts with defensive tackle, running back, cornerback, wide receiver, offensive line depth. I mean, there's a lot of areas that I think it's going to be interesting to see what we have identified as the top priority, and of course, and that's leaving out this so-called uh, franchise quarterback. That's like a unicorn. Um, so we can't be looking for a franchise quarterback. We have to be looking for a great athlete that is a quarterback that can become a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I
And
would agree with
you
that.
don't draft it.
I also think that the Steelers are going to be interesting in so much as do they take exactly like a position that they need and maybe the second or third guy available? Or, and this is always the debate, do you take the best available person no matter the position whenever your pick comes up? And that's always
You,
an internal debate.
there's a couple interesting things that I've seen. The people that have come in to work, the Steelers worked out. I thought it was interesting because then it does become like kind of a chess game. I thought it was interesting that they brought in Ben Saul, the kicker from Pitt, and they looked at him. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that they always do that. You know why they do that? If in case he doesn't make a team or in case he gets drafted and released or whatever. For me, that's more of okay, what if Boswell gets hurt? Or what if Boswell's just on the shelf for a couple weeks? And that's happened in the past where he's had to miss a game or two.
Yeah, it has.
And someone they can rely on if in fact because those kickers are kind of like
Yeah, but he's going to go. He's going to go pretty high. I mean,
probably.
he's going to go pretty high. So then my brain starts to kick in a little bit, and I start to think, okay, wow. Well, a lot of teams need that guy. He could be worth something in draft capital, and then I could go take Ben Saul to replace him, and get something of great value because a lot of people want him. And again, do I think that's going to happen? No, but it's kind of fun to imagine these scenarios, right? And that's one. And then of course the T.J. Watt. The best way to get a quarterback is to be willing to give something up,
I agree with that.
and
And
I don't think they're willing to do that.
they're unwilling to give things up. They're not unwilling to give up TJ Watt, or they're not willing to give up TJ Watt.
Do you think?
Um, no, they won't trade him. I don't think they're willing to trade other pieces, but I don't think that they trade TJ Watt.
Yeah. Well, how come no contract?
Um, I because there's no urgency.
Why? Wouldn't you want your all-star, all-pro, wonderful defensive player of the year? Wouldn't you want him to be comfortable?
Maybe, but that's not how they've acted. They always wait until there's 1 year left, and they wait until training camp, and they wait. They don't. They generally don't operate like that unless you're a quarterback.
Yeah. See, I don't understand that because if it were me, I mean, you saw T.J. Watt posted something cryptic. I'm not even sure what it was, but the conversation was that it indicated that maybe he is not secure with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's the guy I really want to be secure, or he's the guy that I'm having conversations with because he's worth a lot right now. And, you know, he's on the, if you were to look at it on a graph, I mean, he'd be at the apex. And then what happens at the apex? Then you begin the descent, right? So I'd catch him right now while he is at his apex and worth an awful lot. And I'd build my team around that. And that is building your team around your defensive player of the year. Not last year, but that is building your team, still building him, but not on your team.
I think they're fighting TJ Watt's fighting two battles, so to speak. I think he's fighting a battle against the Pittsburgh Steelers and contractually and what he wants to do and the length of his career and all of that kind of stuff. Then I think peripherally, maybe not even peripherally, maybe in lockstep, he's fighting a battle against Myles Garrett that he always fights in terms of worth and a comparative sake. And that has seemingly happened, I don't know, the past 6 years or so, in that whenever one guy gets paid something, the other guy wants paid that. Whenever this guy gets paid this, they want paid that. Whenever one guy wins an award, the other guy thinks he should have won it. And there's essentially two battles that he's fighting. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. But it does, you know, you compare. I don't know how you compare. Well, you know, you set the ceiling. Myles Garrett ends up with what, a $43 million deal?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's actually, it's more, but that's guaranteed this year, I think, the 43 is. You know, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money. But again, it's back to the apex. Is TJ another 3-year player? I don't think he is.
I think he's on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think he's got 3 years at that value. I think he'll always have value, but I mean, just looking at age and statistics and all the data, I mean, so you look at that and you go, okay, so if we've got a guy here 3 years and he's going to cost me $43 million, or do I draft somebody, bring somebody else in at a very reasonable, at a rookie contract deal, and get another 10 years? So, I mean, 21 to 31, right? If he's 21, I mean, so you got 10 years to look at. So I think running it as a business, you know, you come to different scenarios, not conclusions, because this certainly isn't. It's not even something I advocate or think, but it is something that is in my head, and it makes it kind of fun, which is why I really do enjoy watching the draft, because it's like a chess game.
Well, here's the other thing with Watt is there's always that, and it's not a hope. I think it is. It's maybe a anticipation from the Steelers that it could happen. There's always, or chance, I guess is the best way to put it. There's always that chance that there could be that 10 or 12 game span where he's absolutely dynamic. He's the best player in the field. He stays healthy and he returns to form in even just a decent sized window. In that 10 or 12 games encompasses like the last 10 games of the season and a couple playoff games, because there always is that chance that could happen. I mean,
it hasn't.
Well,
I mean, I'm going to tell you, I would become Chuck Noll. I really would. I would fortify that defense. That would be all of my picks. I would absolutely, because frankly, our defense did not play well. And you know, they crushed us with the running game, right? People would kill us that way. Our corners couldn't cover. That it seemed discombobulated. It seemed, and I think, you know, we all get caught up in the romanticism of the draft and a franchise quarterback and, you know, Aaron Rodgers and blah 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 blah. But at its core, the Pittsburgh Steelers need to really become fortified on defense. So, you know, we can talk about needing a running back. We can talk about needing offensive line help. We can talk about a receiver. I mean, that, and then George Pickens becomes a conversation.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Yeah, you're right about that. I think if you're the Steelers, or if you're a Steeler fan, but especially if you're the Steelers, it pays no dividends to make a couple small moves. Either totally overhaul this or put your head down and stick with what you got. Like, if you're going to make trades, trade Watt and Pickens and go big and totally.
That's going big.
Yeah, right. Like, that's the thing I don't understand. Like, you can't just kind of a la carte here and there and hope that you can get an overhaul.
But I wouldn't do that based on a rookie that's yet to be proven. I wouldn't give up what I have until I knew. I mean, that would be a great play for Trevor Lawrence. Give somebody up and get Trevor Lawrence, somebody you know what he can do. That I wouldn't do that for a draft pick. I would give up one of them for a draft pick, but I wouldn't give up.
The other one would have to be a proven commodity.
Yes,
I understand. I understand. Yeah. I think that the recipe in the past decade or so hasn't yielded the soup that you're trying to make. So it's time to go gigantic if you're going to make moves.
Well, we're not really in a position to go gigantic. But again, that's the part that I always love to watch it. Will you watch the draft?
I'll have it on as back. Well, the first round, yes. Be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoy the pomp and the circumstance and all of that of the first round.
Yeah, I do too.
I like that. I like when they come up on stage. I like when they embrace Roger Goodell. And I'll tell you this, and not to be a sap about things, I like to see people's lives changed monetarily and reach a dream because it's true.
What does a rookie? What's a rookie contract? Is it capped? Can a rookie not make $20 million?
Right. And then they've got to get to that second contract. But the thing is, so many of those guys make so much on endorsements. So many of those guys are floated money from their agent. So many guys have different shoe deals.
Is a rookie compensation capped?
Yeah, it's all slotted in.
But what if it's a number one draft pick? He can only make what everybody else makes?
Well, it's against the cap of your team. You already have, money that's allocated that your team is spending. So
if I'm managing my cap, which is what Omar is great at, if I'm managing my cap, I can still pay a rookie $20 million, $40 million.
I mean, if he wanted to, I guess, yeah. But I believe there's a ceiling on it.
Yeah, I'd have to do some more research. I always wondered that, and I don't know that answer. But I do. I watch it, and it will be interesting because it just, again, it's revealing it answers a lot of questions as to what the Pittsburgh Steelers are thinking, do they agree with the pundits and the conversation that we have right now. It's just fun.
I agree with you. It is fun.
So finally, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is a dead entity to me. I don't think okay. It's now to the point where if the Steelers would sign him, it'd be a grave disappointment to me.
Yeah.
It would feel like, one of the reasons is because I don't think he's a good player anymore. The second reason is it felt like because of the time that would have elapsed, that he controlled the whole process and that they swung at other people and missed, and then it comes back to him and he still controls the whole process. And I don't think he's good enough to do that anymore.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think it just sounds like we seem to be caught up and we're enamored with him. And, I don't know. I think people look at his last 3 years. He sucks. Why would we do this based on what he could have done? I'm sorry. I'm out.
And there's no way he makes the locker room better. It might just be a wash, but he doesn't make it better.
In fact, I think he makes it worse.
Correct.
He comes across as a prima donna. And it's all about me, not we, for him. And I'm out on that. It's not we. It's not me. It is us. And he's not that guy. And I don't think there's one person in that locker room that would say, "Oh, this is great. What a team builder."
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he comes in there and elevates the play of anybody by virtue of the way that he's going about his business or being some kind of leader or something like that. And it's invariably a headache at some point with him.
Watch Justin Fields. Just watch him.
Why do you say that?
I think he's going to be freaking great.
Yeah, you think so?
I do. I liked him. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've disagreed with is letting him go. Would I've paid him 40 million? I guess that's his worth because it's what he got. Yeah, I mean, I really believe this kid's going to have a great career. I really do.
I think that what's undeniable about Justin Fields is he's shown a want and the work ethic to try to get better every single day.
Yeah. So so Justin Fields or Mason Rudolph, how do you even compare those two?
Well, here's the other part. The player needed to want to come here too. You wonder if there was a relationship soured with Justin Fields that he didn't want to play for Arthur Smith.
If I'm reading between the lines in some of the offseason interviews, I believe that's a fact.
Feels that way. Surely does to me.
Yeah.
It takes two to tango, and it doesn't feel like he wanted to stay here with that offensive coordinator.
He couldn't believe, again, according to what I read, he couldn't believe that after his 4-2 start that he was benched.
With a lack of communication as to why.
100%. I wouldn't want to be there either.
I agree. Well, I wouldn't want to be there after I realized I had other opportunities that were lucrative.
I think, and what greater stage is New York City?
Right. I'm fully on board with this guy.
I mean, they haven't had anything to be proud of since Joe Namath in 1969, for God's sake.
No, you're right about that. Well, let me ask you this to wrap up. If I asked you today as we're sitting here, a little bit of time before the draft, and you don't have to give a name or whatever, but you have to give a position. What position do you think they draft in the first round?
Do I think they'd draft or would I draft?
Both.
I would really try to structure something to get a quarterback. I'm not sure what that would be, but I would want a quarterback. And is my need for a quarterback out of sync with what's available right now? It might be. But I would never play a season knowing I'm playing with mediocrity. And I just wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't play a season that said, well, let's do the best we can this year and we'll address it next year. Screw that. I want to, and so I think that's part of what their Aaron Rodgers was win today. But you can't win today without sacrificing tomorrow in certain categories. But I would be all in on finding a quarterback. If a Trevor Lawrence presented himself, I'd listen. He's not going to, but I'd listen. So quarterback position, don't know person, but quarterback position. And what do I think they would do?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to go conservative. I think they'll go defensive line first. Then they'll go probably running back. And then, so defensive line, running back. And then if they go for receiver, the only way they go receiver is if they trade Pickens.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would draft a quarterback, but they're going to draft a defensive lineman.
Yeah, no question. It's their biggest need, for heaven's sake. And then an edge. The one guy came in was more of an edge rusher, but also defensive line. He was huge. I forget who it is. And I'd be on criteria for defensive linemen. I'm speed. I'm not going, plug up a 350-pound guy, plug the middle. I'm not that. No, I'm going speed. I'm going athleticism and speed. I'm going more towards the TJ Watt.
Yeah, guy that can beat you around the edge.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. I'm in lockstep with you. I'm right there with you.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Because of course, good conflict is always fun.
No, you're right about that. But I think the Steelers have internal conflict, and there's not much conflict externally. I think all the fans want the same thing.
Yeah, this is Pittsburgh. We want to win, and we want to win now.
You're right about that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Wonderful conversation as usual.
Well, thank you, and I'll get this camera working for next week.
I hope so, because